Good evening and welcome to the May 24th, 2023 Finance Committee meeting. Committee members present this evening, myself, Councilor Di Natale, Councilors Van Hazinga, Boschman, and Squalia. Please be advised that FATV is conducting an audio and video recording of this meeting for public broadcast. I ask that anyone in the audience who is recording this meeting to please identify themselves for the record now by standing and stating their name and city of residence. Seeing none, I ask that this time all electronic devices be placed into silent mode. Public comment. I invite anyone in the audience who wishes to speak to please approach the podium, identify yourself by name and address, and identify the agenda item on which you would like to speak. And you may speak on it for no more than 2 minutes. Any public comment?
Jacqueline Wetchy, Fitchburg resident, speaking on agenda item 137-23. There are many things an agricultural commission could do to help city residents without expending any funds. For example, we've all seen the price of eggs skyrocketing, and they could get the Board of Health off people's backs when they want to raise chickens. Not roosters, which can crow early in the morning, but hens. However, the commission has focused solely on secret meetings to plan inside land deals. They want to permanently remove property from the tax rolls, increasing the burden on everyone else. Their plans to use taxpayer money, whether from federal, state, or local taxes, to get the government involved in farming is a huge mistake. Looking to history, we see the terrible results when this is done. In the first Soviet famine of 1921 to 1922, 5 million people died of starvation. In the second Soviet famine of 1930 to 1933, between 5.7 and 8.7 million people starved to death. In the Great Chinese Famine of 1959 to 1961, between 15 and 55 million people died in the deadliest famine in human history and one of the greatest man-made disasters ever. Communism does not work. Please do not approve this commission or its fund. We did fine without them for years, and this commission should never have been resurrected because they're going to harm and not help the city. Leave farming to the private sector where it belongs.
Any further public comment?
Hi, my name is Evan Halstead from the Agricultural Commission. We're asking for your support today for agenda item 137-23. I have copies of the state chapter if you're interested.
Sir, were you going to make a presentation when the order comes up?
Are we on for a presentation?
Well, yeah. If you were going to come here representing the commission on that order,
yeah.
you can speak and provide any information you want at that time.
Okay, sure.
Okay,
yeah,
thank you. Anybody have any public comment who's not here representing a petition or an order? Because then you'll have your chance when it comes up. Seeing none.
Mr. Chair, before we start,
Yes.
I was told from Kelvin Brooks that Mr. Burnell has to leave early, so can we take him out of order?
Is that?
You don't mind, Kelvin, me saying?
Move to take 136-23 out of order.
In case I get talking.
136-23? Was that the order?
Yes.
Okay. If there are no objections, we'll take 136-23 up now. Let me just get the order out and read it. 136-23, order that the City of Fitchburg hereby approves the expenditure of funds from the United Way of North Central Massachusetts DESE After School and Out of School Time Program Grant and the approximate amount of $31,500 for the purpose of said grant, which is to support the city's summer recreation program. Recreation Director Bunnell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for moving me up in the agenda. I didn't expect that, but it's greatly appreciated. I come before you today with another grant that the city has been awarded, hoping that you will accept. This grant is the Fitchburg Summer Program. Prior to this year was a very different program than what it's going to be. It was a free drop-in program from ages 2 to 17. It's now a little more curtailed to ages 6 to 12. There is a nominal fee for that program to offer and help offset different costs and offer the best program that we possibly can for that amount. And included in that weekly fee, there's a field trip each week. The funding from the United Way grant is going to cover the cost of transportation and the whatever fee or charge we incur for the campers at the 2 sites to visit, whether it's the Ecotarium or the Southwick Zoo, or if we bring in somebody to the camp that's, I want to say it's an entertainer, but they're not really, like Cosmic Kelly. She is a lady that does entertaining, but it's all entertainment with teaching the kids science, or Animal Adventures out of Bolton, bringing them in so the kids can see and experience firsthand experience of the animals. So that funding is going to go towards that, so that there's no additional charge to the people that are attending the camp.
Councilor Van Huizinga.
How many weeks will the program run?
Program is going to run 6 weeks. It starts the 2nd week of July and ends the 3rd week of August.
And can parents sign up their kids for individual weeks, or do they have to commit for the whole time?
It's either or. So if you sign up for the whole time, there is a 20% discount that you get off if you do the whole 6 weeks. If you want to do an individual week here and there, that's totally fine as well. I've worked with several people that have reached out. If anyone's experiencing hardship, the goal is not, this is not a money-making endeavor. This is to help offset costs, and instead of just rolling out kickballs and coloring books, collecting that small fee helps me to purchase other materials and provide a better opportunity and experience for the children of Fitchburg.
And prior, the summer program was held at multiple sites throughout the city. Is it being concentrated down into a smaller number of sites?
Yeah, so prior to me getting here, I know there was once, it was offered at 5 different playgrounds, and then it was offered, I want to say at 3 or 4, and then they condensed it down to 2 or 3 because at, for example, Crocker Park, there was only 4 kids showing up, and there were 3 or 4 staff members that were assigned to that park. So it just didn't make sense to have that open for that. So I concentrated it on Park Hill and Coolidge, 2 of the larger parks that have a lot of different amenities, hoping that the program is successful this year. And if there's more demand in certain locations, my goal and vision is to see that expanding back to the way that it was at multiple different parks throughout the city.
And what hours does the program run during the
Program runs 9 to 2.
9 to 2? And is lunch provided?
Lunch and breakfast is provided.
And breakfast, great.
Working with the Fitchburg Public Schools food service program.
And how do parents sign their children?
Parents can either come to the office at City Hall and sign up, or they're, I believe you reshared my post too. There is a new registration platform that the department is using. There are some things that are still being worked out, so I'm learning just as parents are, but if they reach out to me, I'll be happy to help them through that registration process. Several people have already, and it's a matter of just clicking here and there and getting things on their way. But it is on it's on social media all over the place. It will be posted on the website. It should be going live either tonight or tomorrow night, because I've been putting a whole bunch of different things out there for people to sign up and register for.
So as a parent with 3 kids, I can tell you it's always a challenge to figure out what you're going to do all summer with them and keep them busy and active. So I think this is a great opportunity. I'm excited to see the program strengthened and really be more like a summer camp versus just a babysitter on a playground.
Yeah, and to your point exactly, I didn't mean to step in, but it's not, I wanted it to be more than just a babysitting program. I want, the counselors that we're hiring and that will be going through a training and an orientation with me. The goal is to, for these kids to not only have a fun experience, but to also be learning stuff. There's going to be hands-on activities. There's going to be a lot more that, you are going to get your bang for your buck. And when you brought up having 3 kids, I have 3 myself, I understand, cost and everything that is associated with that, but there is also discounts too when you do sign up multiple children. it's tiered, so that price does go down, so someone is not absorbing that full cost at once. And as I said earlier, you know, if anybody is ever experiencing a hardship with any of the programs that the Parks and Recreation Department offers, it's very easy just to reach out to me and have a conversation, and we'll figure it out, because I'm not going to say no.
Okay, great. I appreciate your efforts here. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Council Squalia?
Thank you. Thanks to Councilor Van Hazinga's questions and your presentation. You answered a lot of my questions that I had from residents about why it's $50 a week, largely more structure. We're getting rid of the drop-in program. It's pre-registration. You can drop your child off if you're pre-registered. But the only question that I didn't hear answered was what happens during a rainout? Because historically, there have been a number of rainouts, but because it was a free program, they just announce a rainout. Will there be a reimbursement for a rainout, or will you plan to take the children to an inside venue?
Unfortunately, no on the inside venue, because I don't have one of those. I'd love to have a community and recreation center somewhere in the city of Fitchburg someday. And as far as the reimbursement thing, if it is absolutely a need to get the money back for that one day that there is a cancel, again, that person just can reach out to me, but knowing that that money is again going back towards the program. If there was an event where we had a monsoon and the majority of the days of the week canceled,
right. Yep.
that's a different situation, and I more than likely would be reimbursing everybody that wanted to attend the camp, because that's not the purpose of that. But one day, if it rains one day in a week, I wasn't planning on reimbursement. I was more considering the fact that, they're just contributing to the program as I was looking at that. But if somebody does have an issue or wants to discuss that with me, I'll be more than happy to have that conversation.
Yeah, well, did they say an ounce of preparation is worth a pound of cure? So having a policy for the rainout, now that there is a structured program, I think would behoove us.
Yeah, no, that's totally fine. And to your point too, just to jump on a piece, instead of a drop-in program, by far and away, my biggest concern is always having the safety of the children that I'm responsible for. Before, where it was a drop-in and out program, having the pre-registration process provides the rec department and the councils with information. If a child has an allergy or is taking, can't handle certain situations, or becomes anxious in a large group, knowing that information helps us better serve those children and run a better program. Additionally, also during the registration piece, they have to identify what adults are allowed to pick up that child. So when they drop off, it has to be someone on the list that's signing them in. When they come to pick that child up at the end of the day, they're showing a valid ID for us to release that child to them. If they don't have that, then we're holding on to that kid until somebody that's on that list comes and picks them up, because that's it's safety first for those kids that are in my responsibility.
Well, I think you're doing a great job, and I appreciate the efforts here, and definitely going to support your petition here.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Council Boschman?
First of all, I just want to say, don't get carried away when you say I'm a nice guy, because I let you come in early. Kelvin said I get the gift of gab, and I don't want you to think I'm going the wrong way here. Getting soft. But my question to you, are you going to have any kind of programs for the youth that's 12 to 16? There's a lot of programs for younger ones, but there's nothing for the ages of 12 or 13 to 16, the critical years.
So it's like a yes and a no. Yes, just today I released the registration for the skate camp. That's 3 weeks in June by the Ryan Joubert Memorial Foundation. That's held at Park Hill. That is from ages, I want to say 6 to 17 or 7 to 17. So there is something for that age group there. The biggest reason why it's more geared towards the younger aspect of children is parents shouldn't leave those kids home by themselves. Usually when you get to the age of 13 or over, there is a little more responsibility at home, where parents may be more apt to leave their child at home during the workday, where those younger kids, they need structure and something productive to do. As my program grows in the city, that I'm not opposed to offering more things to teens. I know my daughter, she goes to the Boys and Girls Club that services Fitchburg and Leominster, and she's a tween, and they offer a program there. I know there's things at the YMCA. I'm not saying that I don't want to do that, just right now, I didn't want to do too much where something failed, where I wanted to start off and see what was the need was. If I have a slew of people reaching out to me that say, we need something for 15, 16-year-olds, is there something that you can do? Then I absolutely will grab that bull by the horns and figure out what I can do within the means that I have to service. I don't want to, like I said, limit it to an age group, but at the time I also didn't want to overextend myself and fail in an area where right now I just want to make something good, solid, grow, and see what people see, so the people of Fitchburg can see what great things can come from the program that's going to be offered.
No, I'm not trying to put you on the spot, don't get me wrong, but numerous times when I've been campaigning that, and I always said the same thing for year after year, the ages of 12 to 15 or 16, there's really, in the city, there's really nothing for these kids to do. And I'm a firm believer, because I was young one time, I don't mind is a trouble mind, and it's easy to get into trouble at that age.
Oh, absolutely. And a lot of the counselors that I'm hiring are from Fitchburg High School, and they fall into that age group. So, I mean, if it's a means of a parent wanting something for their child to do, we have jobs. There's the splash park attendants, there's the pool attendants, and counselors. And, that's a great opportunity there. If there's somebody that's in between, like a 13-year-old, I had a parent reach out to me who signed her child up for a different camp, but was more interested in seeing if her 12 and 13-year-old daughters could become counselors in training, so that they're prepared for the next summer or what comes in the future. And I'm very open to that. I wholeheartedly agree with you that if you can stay involved and occupy yourself, especially outside, that's the best way to go, rather than stay at home and sit idle, because that's usually when things can
Everything
creep
goes
up.
wrong. I know. All right, that's all. I yield the floor. I appreciate it. I want to say thank you.
Oh, no problem.
Move to approve 13623.
Second?
Motion made and seconded to approve 13623. If there are no objections, I'll take this under unanimous consent. Seeing none, passes.
Thank you all very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Return to the front. If there are no objections, I would like to request that the committee take up the 4 orders together, as they are all loan rescissions: 13023, 13123, 13223, and 13323. Are there any objections to combining them? Seeing none, 13023 is an order to rescind the unissued balance of loan order 18518 for replacement of water meters throughout the city and related projects in the amount of $300,000. 3123 is to rescind the unissued balance of loan order 22915 for various projects at the East Wastewater Facility for $8,144,614. 13223 is in order to rescind the unissued balance of loan order 18919 for construction of a new airport runway for $14,604,000. And 13323 is a loan order rescinding the unissued balance of 01720 for repair replacement of the roof and boilers at South Street School and other related projects in the amount of $3,105,666. A lot of numbers. Do you have anything you'd like to add, Cervantes?
Not in particular. These are just essentially housekeeping items, and we're just rescinding unused and unneeded bond authorizations for these projects. They're all finished, and no further funding is needed for them.
Are these rescinded orders factored into the debt service calculations in the budget? Are we assuming in the budget these are going away?
We have, yes.
Okay. Council Boschman?
I just want to say one thing. You know, when I was reading my notes today, and I looked at that 14,606,000, I thought Christmas came early in Fitchburg. I thought the airport was giving us a bonus. So I talked to Calvin. I said, oh, they made me very happy. Then he broke my heart. But anyway, yeah, I get no problems with it.
Make a motion to approve?
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve 130 through 133.23. If there are no objections, I'll take the said unanimous consent. Seeing none, they are rescinded.
Thank you.
134.23, order that the City of Fitchburg approves the expenditure of funds from the Massachusetts Public Health Excellence Grant in the approximate amount of $555,779.80 for the purpose of said grant, which is to expand on shared services between municipalities and the Massachusetts Public Health Network. Director of Health, Steve Curry.
Good evening, councilors. That pretty much spells it out. I don't know if there's any questions regarding the grant.
Council Squalia.
Yeah, we did have a concern over if Fitchburg administrating the MPHN grant, the workers that work for this grant, is Fitchburg taking sole obligation for pensions and liabilities and insurance into the future?
At this time, none of the employees are full-time in this grant. Most of them are already city employees, and any time they spend on this grant would be charged to this grant, including their benefits.
Mr. Curry, what is the Massachusetts Public Health Excellence? Is that a state grant? Is this the Commonwealth?
It's a state grant, but I believe overall it's a grant from the Center for Disease Control. They're trying to push regionalization in Massachusetts because we have so many boards of health. It's difficult.
So it's a state grant funded by the feds?
I believe it's funded federally.
Okay.
Make a motion to approve?
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve Order 134.23. If there are no objections, I will take this under unanimous consent. Seeing none, passes. Sec. Okay, 135.23, order that the City of Fitchburg approves the expenditure of additional funds for the Massachusetts Collaborative for Action, Leadership, and Learning 3 Substance Misuse Prevention Grant in the approximate amount of $500,000 for the purpose of said grant, which is to prevent and reduce misuse of substances of first use, alcohol, nicotine, and cannabis among youth. Mr. Curry.
So I believe we're in year 3 of this grant. It does possibly renew up to 8 years. This is at present a information gathering position. We currently contract with Mary Beth Papsy. She is gathering information through surveys in various schools. There are 4 communities that are involved with this grant. And once that information is compiled, a strategic plan is put together and it's implemented. So basically, it's still fact gathering is the point of my discussion at present. I'll entertain any questions if there is.
Council Squalia.
How much longer does the fact-gathering process anticipate to take?
It will be ending this fiscal year, so.
And at that point, we maybe have a report and a suggested list of actions that we can
It'll
take?
be a strategic action plan, yes. We did lose, this is our second contractor within this fiscal year, so we did lose a few months. So we are a little bit behind in the grant. So we may go a little bit beyond to get a few more things done, a little bit beyond this fiscal year. But Mary Beth is doing her best to catch things up.
Thank you.
But yes, there will be a report.
Move to approve?
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve 13523. If there are no objections, I'll take this in unanimous consent. Seeing none, it's approved.
Thank you, Council.
Thank you. 13723, order that pursuant to MGL Chapter 40, Section 8L, and the receipt of a $5,000 gift to the Fitchburg Agricultural Commission, the City of Fitchburg hereby establishes an agricultural preservation fund and approves the expenditure of said funds.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So yes, my name is Evan Halstead from the Agricultural Commission, and I'm here with Jen Barlow, who's the Secretary of the Commission. We're newly formed, and we're here to seek your support to establish the Agricultural Preservation Fund. The Agricultural Commission was established in 2014, but has not been meeting and functional for several years. It's now functioning with 5 new commissioners. Commissioners are very excited about the new powers conferred on the Commission by the Acts of Massachusetts 2017, Chapter 218. This act, codified in MGL Chapter 40, Section 8L, gives agricultural commissions the power to conserve agricultural land by owning it and by holding conservation restrictions on it. By this new law, agricultural commissions also have the authority to establish an agricultural preservation fund and to apply for grants and accept donations and appropriations to this fund. The Agricultural Preservation Fund is essential to the conservation of farmland because every land conservation grant program requires an appraisal at the time of application. The Agricultural Commission cannot appraise farmland without funds with which to pay for an appraisal. The Agricultural Commission has been offered a donation to establish the Agricultural Preservation Fund. We ask that this committee recommend that the City Council establish the Agricultural Preservation Fund and accept a donation to the fund. The Agricultural Preservation Fund can be used for any purpose authorized by MGL Chapter 40, Section 8L, and we have provided you with the text of this section.
Council Van Hasenga?
So this program is different than Chapter 61A, which gives property tax relief to agricultural uses, but this allows for the establishment of agricultural preservation restrictions on property to preserve it.
That's different too, actually. Right, there's multiple programs to conserve farmland, but those deal with private landowners through the state. It wouldn't be through the city. I think it's more the state level, yeah.
So this is a fund to just sort of seed the money to start this process, to be able to act on these types of restrictions. And I will say, farming in New England is tough. It's not the greatest soil. It's my father grew up on a farm and locally, and they always say the farmer's last crop is houses. So anything we can do to help establish farmers to continue to work and have those resources available is good.
Yeah, and to promote local agriculture. I mean, there's a lot of agriculture out west in the state. There's some in Massachusetts, central Massachusetts too, but not so much, in the city area here. So it'd be nice to have some more local, fresh food, Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Council Squillier?
Thank you. So we have a donation of $5,000 from a preferred anonymous donor to create an agricultural preservation fund. And with this preservation fund, the Agricultural Commission will be able to use this funding to appraise potential farmland values for potential agricultural purposes, be able to use it for, can we use that same fund to conduct and prepare agriculture-related plans?
Yes, I'm sure the money that gets donated to the fund could be used for any number of things according to the law, right? Yeah.
That's the question.
Yes, of course.
What are some other things in a synopsis of the law that we can use an agricultural preservation fund for?
I would assume any kind of surveys of the property or any kind of soil studies perhaps, or, I'm sure the list is long of things that it could be utilized for.
And by establishing this fund, you can use these monies to appraise property or create a plan, but that doesn't mean that we are adopting that plan or buying a property at this time.
Right, those kinds of things would be considered in the future, so we'll cross that bridge when we get to it, yeah.
Thank you.
So the commission has, I'm reading the law here, the commission has the authority to municipality may establish a municipal agricultural commission to promote and develop the agricultural resources of the municipality. Unless otherwise restricted by law, a municipal agricultural commission may buy, hold, manage, license, or lease land for agricultural purposes, educate the public on agricultural issues, advocate for farmers, farm businesses, and farm interests, and assist farmers in resolving municipal problems or conflicts related to farms. And there's many others, receiving grants, advertising. Commission may conduct research and prepare agricultural-related plans, including a comprehensive local agricultural land plan, which shall be, to the extent possible, consistent with any current town master plan and regional area plans. So, since this is fairly new, because it hasn't been brought in quite a long time, is there any oversight of this commission? The way I'm reading this law, it's almost like you guys are on your own island, and you can do a lot of things without mayoral or council approval. I mean, the only part that worries me is the parts where it says that you have the authority to buy, hold, manage, license, or lease land for agricultural purposes. So would the council ever know what you guys are doing?
I believe so, yeah. I'm sure there's a certain number of things, right, that would need council support. My understanding.
I mean, the rest of it doesn't really concern me, but I just, it's not a trust issue, it's just, buying and lease land and whatnot, I feel hesitant to, I guess my own fault, I did not read the law very clearly when we set up the commission, but
Okay.
I'm not talking about not having one, but is there some oversight in terms of what the commission is actually doing, or is it after the fact?
We have public meetings and, yeah.
I know you have public meetings. If you were to decide to buy a tract of land based on this, no one's stopping you, apparently. Mr. Cronin? Yeah.
Again, we're not completely familiar with this because we haven't seen it in a while, but the statute does require that the city council appropriate for contracts. So if they were to contract for land purchase, that would come through the mayor and the city council.
So if the commission were to buy a tract of land or lease, that contract would have to come before us for ratification?
I believe so. And also, if they were to receive gifts of real property, that would come before the council. So before the city takes ownership of anything, I think that comes before the council.
Okay, so
if you look at, let's see, section under G, commission may receive gifts, bequests, or devices of personal or interest in real property in the name of the municipality, subject to the approval of the city council.
I don't see where it says, though, does that also, oh, here it is. City council or town meeting may raise or transfer funds that the commission may acquire in the name of the municipality by option, purchase, lease, or otherwise the fee in the land or water rights. Okay, so we do have a stake in all of that stuff.
Yeah, and it also states under paragraph D that the commission may contract for materials and services subject to appropriation by the municipality. So it would go through the typical procurement process, I believe, with the mayor signing off on any contract.
Let's say, so I'm clear on that, let's say they get a donation for $300,000. We would have to approve that acceptance of the donation just like we're doing tonight.
I don't think necessarily the donation, but if that donation were to become used in a contract, you would be approving the contract.
Okay.
Or appropriating for the contract.
Okay.
But gifts of personal property or real property would come directly to the council. but not every donation.
Okay.
And federal, they're also empowered to apply for and receive grants, federal and state grants on behalf of the municipality, and that's with the approval of the mayor.
We would have to accept those grants as a...
Well, I think it's just the mayor.
Okay.
Yeah, in that case.
So it's not a shadow commission that's doing its own thing and...
No, and I think I think in terms of the federal and state government, they want to make sure that their monies are being overseen by the mayor.
Okay.
I'll ask that question.
And I think the day-to-day, the smaller things, pamphlets, things like that, would just go through the typical warrant process through the mayor's office.
Council Boschman.
My question to it, wouldn't this be on the same idea as, what is it, the North Worcester County?
North County Land Trust.
North County Land Trust, they buy land all the time. I know they bought up there on Quarry Lane, they bought some, so the people that would use the lands for farming, and that stuff, would that be on the same idea as?
Well, I think the way I've heard it described, it's more like the Conservation Commission, how they have the right to, they have a fund and they have the right to buy some
Yeah,
land.
we
as
don't
well.
have any oversight on them, but when they do come before us, it's in conjunction with the water department, because the water department, we're allowing them a use restriction on our land. So I don't think this is a similar, I don't think this is the same thing as that, where they,
I think generally the goal of this organization is to support efforts for agricultural purposes in the city. It's to support farmers who are trying to make things work to they'll keep going. It's not to buy up land and operate farms yourself. It's that may be in some conceptual manner.
We're trying to
part of the
encourage,
plan, but
just
yes,
give support and encouragement, basically.
yeah, I just
and
want to make sure
opportunities
that
where we can.
there's some oversight over what's going on, because, constituents may have concerns wherever something's taking place. I just wanted to put that to rest for the public, that there's,
Yeah, thank you.
you guys aren't just doing whatever you want to do, and no one knows about it, so.
and there are resources available to support local family farms, and there often needs to be a local board or commission or something to facilitate those types of actions, whether it's agriculture preservation restrictions, 61A tax abatements, those kinds of things need a local agent, and that would be this commission.
Yeah, and hopefully, beyond what we're talking about here, our intent is just to help educate the community about these opportunities and, yeah.
Council,
You guys also, say Boschman wants to be a farmer. Some of your land up there, up on the hill where you have it located, will you allow people to use the land and show them how to farm the land so they can grow vegetables in that?
That's on the list of possibilities if or when we get land. I mean, the future's open, I think, for this commission.
And you're telling me, because I have no problem with it, that if you got a lot of money and there was a piece of land, and say, in Fitchburg, way on the outskirts, it used to be farmland, it's going up for sale, and you had the cash to buy it, you want to buy it, right? You would buy it if it was farm?
If it makes sense.
At one time, it was
yeah.
farmland, but it hasn't been developed in many years, but it's still farmland.
Yeah, there's good soils, there's prime soils up in the hills. It's on soil maps. The best use for that land is to grow food on it and some of that soil. I mean, we could have it right here in the city, growing our food.
All right, I get no problem with it. I get no problems.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve 13723. If there are no objections, I'll take this on unanimous consent. Seeing none, it passes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good luck to you.
13823,
Thank
order
you.
that there being hereby is appropriated the sum of $58,143 to be charged against available funds and credited to library personal services. This is the recent contract settlement with the Fitchburg Public Library Staff Association, which covers the period July 1st, 2021 to this June 30th, 2023. Director of Human Resources, Ms. Davis, and Ms. Hinkle. Anything you'd like to add?
No? If anybody has any questions?
So the cover sheet says compensation 2.5% wage increase effective July 1st of '21, 3% July 1st, 2022. Wages will be retroactive to July 1st, 2021. So this is covering 2 years of retro pay,
Correct,
and then the current fiscal year, which ends on the 30th.
correct. And we are now, we're already negotiating
the
for
next
the
one.
next one. Just very quickly, the delay, because this is obviously behind. So it started certainly with COVID. Then one of the negotiation team members moved out of state. Another negotiation member tragically passed away, and then the library director retired. And now Deb's here, so that's the reason for this being behind.
Any questions? Mr. Brooks, this is not part of the FY24 budget because it doesn't go past June 30th. Or the new rates.
Right. There still will be an adjustment for FY24 whenever the next contract is done.
So this 58,000 is funding in full the contract for the 3 years. It's not funding the future, this allotment. Whatever the rate is at the end of June per this contract is the rate in '24 that's in the '24 budget. They're going back to the negotiating table for FY24 forward. So this 58,000 is not covering year one, it's covering all 3 years of this contract. And then they're going to be back to us when they have a new agreement for FY24 to the future. So that typically we get contracts where it's funding year one, and then year 2 and 3 would be in the future budgets. This one's funding everything up to this point.
It was because of the delay, obviously. You can only have a 3-year contract. Yep. So, and, that's a long time to be without any kind of, increase for staff. So that's why we did that. And now we're negotiating a 3-year contract. So, yeah, you'll see us back once we get the next contract, which will start for fiscal '24, negotiated.
Well, can I ask a question?
Yes.
Well, you had them at the table. Why don't you just do it then, go from the 21 to 26?
Well, you can only have a 3-year contract.
3 years, so
but
21,
because there are a number of, it was time, a matter of time, because we have a number of things that are non-monetary that need to be revised and updated in that contract. And it was going to take us longer, and we wanted to get it done to make this cutoff. So rather than, we've already gotten a lot of the negotiation done, but we weren't going to, time-wise, it wasn't going to, and I don't want to rush anything either for them or for anybody, but.
Move to approve?
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve 13823. Any objections to unanimous consent? Seeing none, it passes.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
To avoid any appearance of conflict of interest, I wish to recuse myself from items 139 through 14223.
Okay. Just reading here, 1 second.
Oh, the auditor.
1 second. Okay, so 13923, I would ask the 3 remaining counselors if you would not object to combining the next 4 orders into one, considering they're all part of the famous union contract. 59, sorry, 1 second here. So 13923 is for $59,930. 14023 is for $13,611. 141.23 is for $12,793, and 142.23 is for $2,254. And 140.23 involves personnel in the famous union for the Water Enterprise Fund. 141 is for wastewater, 142 is for airport, and then 139 is for an assortment of departments that have employees as part of this union negotiation. Are there any objections to taking them all up at once?
I got no objection, but I do have a question.
One second, Counselor. So there's no objections to taking them all at once. So I just wanted to quickly read here. Kindly be advised that negotiations with the Fitchburg Association of Managers, Administrators, and Specialty Skills Group, otherwise known as FAMOUS, employees have successfully concluded. I have attached the signed memorandum of agreement and all related documents pertaining to this collective bargaining agreement. This CBA covers the period from July 1st, 2022 through June 30th, 2025. As a result of these successful negotiations, I'm requesting an appropriation to pay for these, the first year of the agreement and associated retroactive wages. So this would cover fiscal year 23, fiscal year 24, and fiscal year 25. So there will be, the first year will be a retroactive pay because we're at the end of fiscal year 23, and then FY24 budget has the new agreement and the rate after 23 in it already that you saw throughout the pages. But I just wanted to point out that this is funding the first year, which is retroactive, and then the budget for FY24 funds the second year. Are there any questions on the famous contract? Anything, Ms. Davis, you want to add? No?
No.
Okay.
Successful negotiations went well, and
let me just read that the wage and salary grid system on page 9, well, page 9 of the contract says that FY23 will have a 3% increase in wage, FY24 3%, and FY25 3%. So it's 3, 3, and 3. Any questions for Ms. David? Council Boschman, you had a question.
Yeah, I do have a question. I got two questions. I want to make it clear that, what do you say the wage on page 9?
It says it in the addendum.
It was 3, 3, and 3.
Page 9 of the contract, but it's really the second page. It's the page after Ms. Davis's letter.
Is that the one that's got?
It says point number 4.
Yeah, point here, 3, 3, and 3.
Right. So this page is just highlighting the changes in the contract from the previous contract we funded, and on page 9 of that contract that is not in front of us, but it's publicly posted, talks about the wages.
Okay. Yeah. I do have a couple of questions.
Go ahead. Yep.
But one of my questions for the city auditor, I don't care if it's the assistant or the program. On the $2,254 raise that we're giving the airport, is the city paying that, or does the airport cover its own costs for help employees?
If you look at that order, 14223, it says that there be and hereby is transferred from within the airport personal services account. So we're taking the money out and putting it back in. So there is not an appropriation from the general fund for that $2,254.
So the airport's paying it.
Okay, I got no problem with that. All right. My second question, I talked to you already.
Yes.
This, and I'm surprised you didn't pick up on it, you of all people. When they say 3, 3, and 3, I figure it out, it's more than 3, 3, and 3. If you add in, her and I had a big discussion about it for about 2.5 hours.
I know where you're going with this.
The longevity of service.
Yeah, there's other. I read the wage percentages because that's typically the question I get from a constituent is, what's the base? What's their pay raise every year? I don't get into the matrixy changes or any of the other factors. But yeah, you're correct. This contract, like all of the contracts we've seen, doesn't just involve the wage increase. There's other puts and takes in the contract that net out to whatever it is we appropriate. So yes, continue. Sorry.
Now I'm going to say it because I told you I'm going to say it, and I want to repeat it out loud. According to an article I read in the paper, and it was on the internet. You can look it up on the internet, and I believe it's Wall Street Journal. And I'll say it again. Manufacturing cannot keep up with government any longer. The government, they can't keep up with government because their wages and their benefits they can't sustain it. Over here can't sustain what we're giving over here. Is a crash. That's what it said in the Wall Street Journal. People have said that. I want people to get a raise. Don't get me wrong. I know Kelvin's going to have some, but I want people to get a raise. But some of these raises, when you see $4,000, $5,000, $6,000, you say to yourself, whoa. And when I'm only used to 2 cents and 5 cents, I know times have changed, but it hasn't changed that much. You know, that's all. All I know, you know how I feel about that longevity of service.
Yeah.
I know to some people it's not a lot of money, but to me it is a lot of money.
I'm not a fan of them either because I come from the dreaded private sector and I don't get any compensation for my years of service.
I do just want to remind, if I might just quickly, I absolutely hear what you're saying and I respect and appreciate it. I will say, though, that there have been times, I mean, I've only been here for 7 years with the city, but there have been a number of times over the years where a lot of unions took a zero. They didn't get any kind of increase. And you know, other things were given to employees, whether it was personal days or maybe something like this, to really reward people for, you know, and appreciating for their years of appreciating them for their years of service with the city. I think that this is one of those items. I don't know how long longevity has been given.
30 years.
30 years, probably.
Yeah.
But I do believe that is, so while I understand what you're saying, there is another side to that as well, though. So that these were some of the things that employees, you know, were given when a COLA wasn't possible. And this is a set dollar amount. It's not that it's a percentage of somebody's wages, but I do respect and appreciate what you're saying.
We were in a situation this year, and I agree with what you said, with the prior contracts that we've already ratified, where we kind of had a gun to our head that we weren't retaining people in certain areas of public works, and we were losing them to other municipalities or private sector, and we couldn't fill the jobs that we were budgeting for at the rates we budgeted them for. So, you know, when we saw the budget earlier this week about those mass increases in those contracts, the impact, I mean, to me, I see that as we made up ground over years where we didn't follow market rates. We were getting a bargain for what we were providing, but then it ended up hurting us because we weren't getting the people. So we had to make up for what we weren't doing before. So it's a big whack all at once. But I mean, it's pick your poison. Either we didn't do it and we still have staffing issues, or we do it and then we improve the staffing issues. I mean, so in this case, I see that as a little bit similar, but yeah, it's tough. You know, I certainly don't get a lot of these perks. I know most people in the private sector don't, and that's what they call them. They call them perks. But
we just need to stay ahead of it.
Yeah.
Because if we don't, we're going to end up in the same boat where we're going to have to put, like with the DPW contract, a lot of money into it because for so long, those rates were not competitive. Remembering that our competitive, the people we compete against are other municipalities. We're not able to compete with some positions with the private sector. We never will be. But it is mainly municipalities that we are competing with. And it's not like we are far and above other municipalities. Some we're even with, some we're a little bit ahead of. But I think right now we've done a lot of work on the wages, given this employment landscape. I think we've done a lot of good work.
I understand what you're saying, and I understand what you're saying. I have no problem against that. I understand the DPW was underpaid. You could go to McDonald's and make $19 or $20 an hour instead of digging a hole. So I understand that. And I understand some of these wages. But I just want to make it very clear. The taxpayer is not an open checkbook. It's not that they don't want to give you raises. It's just not an open checkbook where we can say every year, here's another $6,000, here's another $7,000, or $5,000 or $4,000, whatever you want to say. Their pay doesn't go up as fast. It doesn't. You're talking about if you're looking at a guy like me that worked in an industry, you're only getting 25 cents, 50 cents an hour. It's not dollars. I don't see it when I read the paper. The bottom line is the dollar bill for the shareholders. So they cut everybody and they make it as cheap as they can get it, so they can give it to the shareholders, so that the labor, the common man, doesn't make as much money if you don't have a college degree and specializing in something. That's my only problem. I don't mind paying, but I'm going to make it very clear to the council and to everybody. I want to see results. That's what the people want to see, results. If you see results, they're happy. If they don't see results and they're paying and there's nothing, they get upset. I would be upset. You would be upset. And I think you would be, and I think everybody in this room would be upset if you were paying me top dollar and I wasn't performing. You know?
Well, last fiscal year, we had a mass amount of seasonal help budgeted for. I remember Courtney Lamoureux in DPW gave me the list of all the positions we're paying for, or we're funding, that weren't filled. And so that doesn't help the constituent or the taxpayer when those don't get filled, and it's because of market rate forces that we're behind the eight ball on. So it's a pick your poison, like I said earlier. I will say, to bring a little bit of historical context to that discussion about, there isn't an open checkbook. I'm guilty of this too, in terms of having a short-term memory. But between the years of 2008 and 2013, I call it the Gilded Age of Fitchburg, the 6 years of absolute torture, okay, where if we had a dime on the rug that we found, we'd all cheer because we didn't have any money. Unions, non-union employees, they took massive hits on the chin. 0, 0, 0. I remember all those discussions. They were lucky if they got 1%. So over the last decade, or 15 years, I want to say at least half of that period of time, there were either no raises given, or the raises that were given were way below cost of living. So we're kind of getting back to the way we used to of the adjustments that we've been seeing. But I just want the public to understand that over a period of time in the last 15 years, a considerable period of time, we weren't giving anybody anything, or far less. So that has to be part of the calculus when you take it in its totality. So I agree with you, but I have to put that context into play, because there were several years where we gave nothing. And times are different, but we're in challenging times again. So we need to be more frugal and understanding of that for future negotiations. And we'll learn more about that in the coming weeks. The only thing I wanted to ask, I've asked this for 16 years, I don't know for the life of me why unions want longevity and stipends separated in the contract and not have it be part of their salary. Their pension is getting calculated off of those anyway. Why do we even have them? Just have the salaries go and get rid of all these adders or these sweeteners that, when you calculate it, it doesn't make a difference. I don't know why they're there.
I agree. I think it would certainly help for an accurate look at what you're seeing. I think if you were to eliminate those, then you would end up having higher COLAs. I think on some level you might.
But I already checked on this. They already factor into your pension calculations.
The stipends?
The stipends and not clothing allowances or
Clothing
buyback,
doesn't, right.
but stipends and
Everything else
longevity, it already goes to that. So I don't understand why it's even there. That's all. I just don't
You know, it's funny because
get rid of them and move them to the salaries.
obviously some don't because they can't. You take like the clerical union, they don't have any stipends. I mean,
Okay.
it's and like this union doesn't have. There are, I think, a lot.
Well, whatever they do have, Susan, I'm saying, what's the difference? Just put them in the salary and call it a day. So that's all. That's it.
I make a motion, we accept. See that?
Motion made and seconded to approve the 4 spending orders for the famous contract. Counselor, do you have your hand up?
Nope.
Okay, sorry. If there are no objections, I'll take this on unanimous consent. Seeing none, they pass. Last but not least, or actually second to last, because we have communications. All right, so we have another request that I have to bundle the next 4. 14323 is for $68,793 to be paid out of available funds and credited to the entirety, a whole slew of departments where basically 143, 144, 145, and 146 are not union employees. They are non-union that are paid out of the ordinance, the matrix in our ordinances that we have established. This is to fund those levels at the already existing ordinances that we have, the matrices.
So this,
to change.
This was set by the mayor,
Yep.
and so what this involves is a 3% raise for 3 years to the existing matrix.
So is this going to require, Calvin, an ordinance change?
Yes.
Okay.
It does, and the council went to first printing at the last meeting.
Okay, that's right.
Yep.
So the ordinance has already been filed. This is coming before us at a later date, the ordinance that aligns with this.
So the ordinance was approved for
reading, I
first
think,
printing.
wasn't it? Oh, that's the one that we, yeah.
First
okay.
reading at the last city council meeting, and it'll be on,
Right.
it should be on the agenda at the next council meeting for its, I want to say second reading or third.
So
and final.
last Tuesday, we voted on the first reading of these ordinances that govern these values. Tonight is the funding of that ordinance.
Correct.
This is chapter 44, section 10.
And I believe the final reading of those ordinances will be on the same council agenda as the spending orders for approval in full. That's why they timed it that way. So the 68,793 is for multiple departments, and then 144 is for water, 145 is for wastewater, and 146, again, is a transfer from within the airport. So the airport is paying for their own increase, Counselor. The other 2 are separated because they're enterprise funds. So, Counselor Squalia.
Can you explain what happens with the personal services account? Is this something that's a reimbursement for things that are purchased, or is this just another name for a salary increase?
It's, I don't know why it's personal as opposed to personnel, but I don't know. Well, no, I mean, it is all.
Personal services is just a general category for otherwise salary and wages.
Wages.
So if it's not different, it's not going line by line as to where the money's going. It's just saying, within the mayor's salary accounts, we're adding $4,000, $4,072. Within the city auditor salary accounts, we're adding $7,100, and so on down through.
Is this part of a union, what is the purpose of this $68,000 addition?
It's basically the same thing as a contract, except this is all non-union. These are all non-union employees. Because you're either paid by the ordinance, which is Chapter 44, Section 10, or you're paid by a collective bargaining agreement. But all the folks that are included in this list are non-union. So this is their salary. This is the 3% for each of the years for the folks that are in here. Did that answer?
So it's all, it's really it's management personnel.
Counsel, one second. So
Oh, sorry.
to answer Counsel Squalia's question, to clarify, the ordinances that are before us right now set the salaries, and that new ordinance or revised ordinance sets those salaries at a 3% increase annually for the next 3 years. And that's what this increase reflects. The first year of that 3-year ordinance change. So if you're making, correct, if you're making $100,000 per the old ordinance, the new ordinance would set your salary for this coming year at 103, 3% increase.
So this actually starts with fiscal 23. This is
So there's
right,
1 year
yes.
of retro. So
Yep.
this is funding the retro.
Correct.
Okay, so I know Council Squire has the floor still, but just to parse it together, this is for FY23, FY24, and FY25. The first year being a retroactive adjustment, and then in the budget for FY24, it has the next 3%.
Correct.
So this ordinance change that we passed through first reading is saying for FY23, all of these individual salaries are going up 3%, and then 24, 3%, then 25, 3%. And for the first year, retro, that's the 3%, what is on this order. And then the next 3% is in the budget that you saw all those increases. So I'm assuming for the mayor, this is the administrative assistant, administrative aide, and the chief of staff, correct?
Correct. It's not the mayor's salary because that's subject to a different ordinance.
And then
So
the
this would
city
be-
auditor would be,
Would be actually two people in my department, myself and the deputy.
okay. So anyone not in a union. So counsel, you have the floor. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
So continuing on that, so when we look at our budget and it says, chief of staff to the mayor.
Correct.
Will that line, will there be an additional line that now says personal services? Or will this additional funds just get added to the individual lines in the budget?
I think they're already in there, right?
I don't know if I'm answering. That is the
Right.
number for salary.
Right, so the number that you're voting on tonight is for the fiscal year 23, the current
retro.
fiscal year.
Right.
The amount for fiscal 24 has already been put into the budget for fiscal 24,
The amount for fiscal '24 with this already figured in.
with the ordinance change figured in, correct?
Right. So this number that we see will already have this included.
Right.
Yes.
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 Okay.
And that is why, to answer some counselors' questions earlier, the increases look higher than usual. And the reason for that is
Okay.
because of these retro adjustments. The budget actual column in FY23, does that include this retro or not?
It does not.
So that's a key point I want to make sure you're aware of. The reason why these adjustments in the FY24 budget are substantially larger than you would normally see is because the FY23 numbers do not have this in there. So the FY24 number is basically 6%. It's taking the 3% increase for 23 and then adding another 3% for 24, because the FY23 numbers reflected there don't have the retro increase in them. So it's an apples to oranges comparison. It's FY23 before the 3%, and then FY24 with 3% in 23 and 3% in 24. Did I make that
Yeah, he
clear?
made it clear.
So it's almost like a double increase.
I got no problem.
So I'm
They
just,
deserve it.
that's why some of these salary lines you see say $7,000, $8,000, $9,000. It's really comparing nothing in FY '23 to 6% in '24.
Exactly.
Because Calvin, or the mayor and Calvin didn't put the raise in FY '23's column because of timing.
Yep.
So that's why it looks like that.
I make a motion, we accept 143 through 146.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to accept 143 through 146. Any discussion or objections to unanimous consent? Seeing none, they pass. Thank you. Lastly, we have two communications. I was hoping President Zarella would be here so I could quickly ask him about these. Normally, we don't get communications. We can place this on file in the city's clerk's office once I read it, or unless you want the readings waived. But correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Auditor, we're going to see in the future, near future. Okay, so I see what's going on here. I'm sorry, I'm answering my own question. These don't involve retro.
Exactly.
These begin effective July 1st of 2023, so that's fiscal year '24. So these two communications are giving the council a heads up that in the FY '24 budget, these new contracts are in there as year one. And if we pass the budget with those in there, we are essentially ratifying the contract. We don't need a loan order. We don't need a spending order. They're in the budget that we're going to take up next week or in 2 weeks. Next 2 weeks. 2 weeks.
Negotiations went very well and involved 2 meetings with each group. So it was very quick, and that's why there's no retro, and it's all,
So that's why these are communications and not orders. We're being communicated that in the budget coming up, these are in there, the new contracts. So I'll just quickly read the front page. One involves the wastewater treatment facility. May 11th, from the mayor to President Zarella. I am writing to inform you that a memorandum of agreement has been reached between the City of Fitchburg and the Service Employees International Union, SEIU Local 888, wastewater facilities for the period July 1st of 2023 through June 30th of 2026. The cost for year one of the contract is $58,452. And the sum is included in the mayor's fiscal 2024 budget to be presented to the council this month. And then the second letter is the same letter, same methodology, memorandum of agreement between the city and the inspectors, SEIU 888 group for 2023, July 1st through 2026, June 30th. The cost of that contract is $61,350. And that's also included in the mayor's budget, and that covers facilities, police, building, health, council on aging, and library services. And so the only thing we can do with these is accept the communications and place them on file in the city clerk's office. And then if you have issues with the physical funding of them, that's the battle during the budget session.
So moved.
I got no problem.
Okay, so I have a motion made and seconded to accept the communications and place them on file in the city clerk's office. If there are no objections, they are accepted communications.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to adjourn. We are adjourned. Thank you.